Now we're going to take a look at Autotile. Autotile is a very useful function in which you can lay down tiles representing ground and wall and have it vary based off of what tile is next to it. It's really useful for making very large areas of a 2D map. Okay, now we're back in the project we created last time. You'll notice though that I deleted the color rectangle we were using as a ground, and I also deleted the walls. And the reason for this is they looked quite ugly because they weren't aligned correctly, and also because it's quite cumbersome to do it that way, especially if you have large maps that you want individual textures based off of how the size should be. You don't want to have to hand draw every single level. Instead, you can use tiles and you can have them interact based off where each and every one is. This feature is called auto-tiling. We're going to get to that, but first let's see what the tile node is. If we go here and we type in tile map, and we bring it in, we'll notice that we now have this grid all around our interface. And the reason why is this is the tile set of where it can go. This might be a little bit big right now, so in fact we're going to change it. If we go over here to cell, we'll see that each cell right there is 64 by 64. Our tile set's not that big. It's going to be 32 by 32. So just change it like that. And your tile set, you can get it from anywhere. You'll need to figure out what size your tile set will be when you get it, but mine's 32 by 32. So we have that in there. Now we need to actually get the tile set in, or the PNG of what our tile set looks like. To show you what it looks like, you can simply drop it on here and it'll come in as a sprite. This is a tile set or a PNG of what it is, where each and every one is a 64 by 64 grid of what can be used in that specific instance. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to delete that like that. And we're going to actually drop it in here by creating a new tile set over here in the right hand corner. Click on this thing called empty and create a new tile set. This is creating a new object, sort of like a TSCN. We can even save it as a TSCN, but specifically dedicated to holding and storing data about our tile set or our PNGs that represent tile set. If we click on the button over there, let me just do it again just to make sure I show you correctly. This thing over here, if you click on this button right here, you can see it brings up this. This is our tile set editor window. If we pull it up, we'll see we have nothing in here, but we want these two PNGs in here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit the plus button here, and we're going to choose the wall PNG, and we're going to add another one. We're going to choose the floor PNG. With the floor, we don't need all of this stuff. We're just going to go ahead and I'm going to show you a single tile. It's very simple to create actually. Just hit this new button, single tile, and then click here. This is the single tile. It's the only tile we're going to use for this set, and we're going to draw the entire floor with it. Let's go ahead and let's back out here, and we can see we've got our tiles all up again. We're going to go ahead and we're going to draw like this. And you can see we've got quite a good bit of tiles, but it takes a while to draw it like that. So instead of drawing each and every individual tile like that, we can instead come up here and put in a few key points and go to the bucket fill. And we notice the bucket fill will actually fill up everything in between those tiles, sort of like a bucket tool in Microsoft Paint even. Now we've got our tiles set in. We play it. And we can notice that it's not very different from our color rec before. And the reason why is it's just a single tile. It's very standard, very generic. But we're going to get to an auto tile, which is what makes this function so great and makes it so useful. However, I just want to change something. You'll notice that our size is a little small right now. The camera's too zoomed in. We can change that by creating our own camera by coming up here and pressing camera 2D, popping it down, and make sure you hit the words current and then make it on. The reason why is because this will make our camera the main one that's used when we hit the play button. You only need to hit it once for the current on, and then you can change to the zoom by hitting those buttons and typing what you want. I want 1.5, so that's what I put. And we're going to center it on the camera or the stage center. And there we go. We can see it's centered around it like that. We can see pretty easily. We have a good bit of margin between the sides of the walls and the stage. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw our wall in. Now the wall needs to have collision, and it also needs to look like a wall. So we're going to do that right now so that it looks good and has collision. Click this button up here like that to get us back into this editor. And then you're going to scroll up, or I think I might need to add it back in again. So click the plus button there, and we've got to add it in. Now we can see we have this button over here, new auto tile. Let's click it. Now that we've clicked it, instead of just pressing one tile, we can drag. So left click and drag like that. And now we've selected all of these into our Autotile database, I guess you could say. But there's no data really determining how these are set up. In order to do that, we need to use these buttons up here. Most of this isn't necessary. Occultations for changing how the lighting would work. Navigations for how, for example, an AI would navigate it, if it's navigatable or if it's blocked off. What we need to care about right now is bit mask and icon. Priority is used, for example, let's suppose you have a grass area and you want random tiles thrown in of maybe a pebble or maybe a patch of dirt. This priority would randomly throw them in of certain intervals like 0.7 or 0.2. You can set that up, but we don't need it because we're just making a standard wall. So what's an icon? Let's click on this button back here to go back to TileMap, and we'll notice we've got this. We've got this with nothing, and we've got this with the solid blank purple texture. This isn't good for us that this is blank because there's no icon or no standard wall, I guess you would say. If we click here, we notice we're not putting anything down because we have no standard tile or no standard icon. We're going to click here back into the editor, and let's just choose this one to be it because it's got all 4 sides filled up, and it also it's just a good tile, I guess, for a standard tile. So let's click that. Now this is our standard icon tile. If we go back here, click on tile map, place one down, we'll notice if I flip back to paint tile, we'll notice I've got these now, but this isn't very good. It looks pretty ugly. In fact, it's no different than what we did with the single tile because it's just showing that one tile over and over and over again. Let's go ahead and edit that. Let's go back here, click in here, get back to Autotile, and go to bit mask. Bit mask is the data that makes the computer think what links with what. So for example, we want the red tiles that can touch to touch. It's a very hard concept to explain. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fill all these red tiles in, and once it's done, I'll show it to you. It'll be much easier to understand then. So I'll just speed up music here, so see you. Oh, one thing I need to mention. With tile maps in general, let's suppose you have a red and you accidentally click it where you don't want it. You can hold the right click button to delete. So right click, or just hold and drag right click like that. And this even works out here. For example, let's suppose we don't want this over here. Hold right click, and we're deleting. So there we go. Okay, I'm going to go back to filling these in. Okay, and there we go. We can see we've drawn our wall in, and we can see how it works. It draws this inside if it's the inside of the wall, and these are all the outsides of the walls. I'm going to explain to you how logic works, but first let's go ahead and delete this, and let's draw this around the boundary of the box. So let's just go ahead up here, that, zoom it out a bit, do like that, and then like that, over here, do like that. And now we've set it up an easy way to come over here with bucket fill. Click it, and boom, we've got our wall all set up. If we come in here, I'm going to try to explain the logic. It's a little hard to wrap your head around. You just have to do it to get it, just because it's a little weird. So we'll notice we have these bit masks. And if I zoom in here, or actually, this might not be the best example because we don't have the center tile. We have this bit right here, which corresponds to this texture. It has one red bit over here, which would correspond to that. And basically what it looks around is it looks at this tile set and it looks which one has exactly one bit right here touching it and no other bits touching there or there, or there. And it looks around and goes, okay, we have this one over here, but it's not the best because it has all these two over here. We don't want that. It keeps looking and it finds this one right here. And it sees that this one has two red bits right there. So it looks and says, okay, that one's pretty good. And it slots it in right there. And slots that one in right there. So then we've got this texture right here. And it says, okay, I need my neighbor to exactly have this bit right here. And it needs to have a bit right there. And it looks over here. And we see the perfect match for it is this one right here. It's really hard to explain. you want to have the red bits where they connect, but only where you want them to. It's really hard to explain. Put the red bits where there's an opening. That might be a better way. Notice how this wall's right here. Since the wall's right there, we don't want to put it, but we want to put it everywhere there's not a wall. Same thing over here. There's not a wall over there, so we put the bits over there, and it all lines up, and we get a good looking wall. Now if we just back it out to the main level, we've got our wall, but does it actually function? Let's go ahead and try it out. When it loads, we'll press the up button, and go straight through it. The reason for this is actually quite simple. We've set it up, but we don't have the collision set up. So if we come back in here, we're going to set up the collision. Very simple to do, but it is a bit of a time sink. So click in here. Notice the ones that we have set up for the Autotile feature. Come over here to collision, and we have two different ones, collision of rectangles and collisions of a unique complex collision. For now, we don't need that. We just need collision of rectangles. So click this button, click in here. You'll notice we've selected that tile, and we've said that in that boundary, the entire tile will be collision based. Come over here, do the exact same thing, and we're just going to do this for every single tile on this map. It's going to take a bit, so let me just speed it up. Okay, and as we can see, we've put collision boxes on every tile we're going to use. It takes a bit of time, so you don't need to do it for everyone if you're not going to use them all. So if we hit the play button right now, we'll notice, let me just check something quickly. Okay, we'll notice something quickly. We changed the collision on this thing to only do the first layer of what the player is on, and it's only going to collide with the second layer. So let's go ahead and change the tile map collision to the second layer, like that. Okay, now that the tile map's on the second layer, we're going to go ahead and hit the play button, and boom, we've hit the top. So that's a quick and easy way to see how a tile map works. We've got a good looking wall, we've got a little bit of clip in right there, and that just has to do with the size of the textures and the exact size you make the cells. You can work on that, just get a little bit better, but for our purposes, it's great. It looks good, it's got collision, so I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it informational.